wondering what sort of place Tiburon, South Carolina was. What if my mother leaving me wasn't true? What if T-Ray had made it all up? I knew exactly what I needed to do. Leave. I got my mother's photograph and the Mary picture and tucked them down in my bag. The road stretched empty, as far as I could see. Tiburon, South Carolina, of course. The town written on the back of the Mary picture. My mother had been there. A man driving a truck had Mercy. The store at the edge of town looked about 100 years old. I found myself looking at a picture of Mary. I don't mean just any picture of Mary. It was the exact one as my mother's. They stared at me from labels of jars of honey. May I help you, young lady? Where'd you get those? Oh, August Boatwright. Do you know where she lives? Later on, I arrived. She was tall, dressed in white. I wasn't able to take my eyes off her. Well, who have we got here? I'm Lily. I ran away from home and I don't have any place to go. Well, you can stay here till you figure out what to do. The first week at Augustus was a pure relief. The world will give you that once in a while, a brief time out. I got my mother's photograph and marched into Augustus' room and laid out the photograph. You are the spitting image of her. It's my mother. Oh, I know, honey. Your mother was Deborah Fontanelle Owens. The first day you showed up, I took one look at you and all I could see was Deborah with your age. I used to take care of her. I earned her dresses and packed her school lunches in a paper bag. You knew she was my mother all along. Why didn't you tell me? You weren't ready to know about it yet. I didn't want to risk you running away. The part I'll never understand is why she married him. Oh, I don't think your father was always like how he is now. I think he worshipped her, and your mother soaked it up, but after 6 months, it started wearing off. When he proposed, she said no, but later on, she changed her mind and said yes. Why? Why did she marry him? Honey, Deborah was pregnant. That's why. I was unwanted. I was the unwanted baby. My mother got stuck with T-Ray because of me. Do you think she was just a little bit happy? She tried, I know that. One day she called me up, said she was leaving, that she had to leave home. When I picked her up at the bus station, she didn't even look herself. She brought me along, didn't she? No, honey, she came back, said, why? Why didn't she bring me? All I know, Lily, is she was depressed, sort of falling apart. I hate her. I do. I hate her. She wasn't anything like I thought she was. It was easy for her to leave because she never wanted me in the first place. Once she started feeling a little bit better, she went back to get you. They were yelling and fighting. She picked up the gun, but he took it away from her. I picked it up. I wanted to help, to give it back to her. Why did I do that? Why did I pick it up? It was my fault. She died. I killed her. I'm unlovable. You listen to me now. Every person on the face of the earth makes mistakes. Literally, every last one. There is nothing perfect. There's only life. The knock on the door came at 2 p.m. T-Ray stared at me. Well, look who's here. Won't you come in? If you want to pretend I'm making a social visit, we'll pretend. But this ain't a social visit, you hear me? I'm going to take you out of here nice and quiet or kicking and screaming. Don't matter which to me. This is where my mother came when she ran away from us. She was right here. I should have known. How dare you leave me? You need a lesson is what you need. He kicked at me, his boot landing in my calf like I was nothing but a tin can on the road. Deborah, you're not leaving me again. T-Ray, it's me. Lily. Daddy, it's me. You look like her. I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. But even as I said it, I knew he didn't want me back on the farm, didn't want to be reminded of her. In the photograph, by my bed, my mother is perpetually smiling on me. I guess I've forgiven us both, although sometimes my dreams take me back to the sadness, and I have to wake up and forgive us all over again.
PR 50, your time was 7:43.
Thank you. Got that as well.
Judges? All right, PR 55, when you are ready, we are ready.
Thank you. It was 1,000 little things that told Cheyenne something was wrong. Even the way the door had closed hadn't sounded right. Too hard and too fast to be her stepmom. The breathing was all wrong, too harsh and sped up. The smell of cigarettes. But her stepmom didn't smoke. There was no way the person driving the car was her. Cheyenne realized she was being kidnapped, but she couldn't see who was taking her or where they were going, because for the last 3 years, Cheyenne had been blind. In the book Girl Stolen by April Henry, Cheyenne Wilder is accidentally kidnapped. Griffin the car thief brings her back to his house to figure out what to do next. But the real question is Griffin the real one she should be worried about? I don't need this crap from you. I don't need you screaming and kicking and scratching. I can't think while you do that. Look, I just wanted the car, not you. I didn't even know you were in the car. Please let me go. Please just let me go. I won't tell them anything. I'm sorry, but do you really think I believe that? But I wouldn't be able to tell them anything. Didn't you notice that I'm blind? Hey, Griffin. Where'd you get this? At the mall. Someone left the keys in it. What the hell is in the back seat? It's a girl. You killed the girl, but no, she was in the back. I didn't see her at first, and by the time I did, it was too late, so I had to take her with me. So you brought her back here? That wasn't a real smart idea. Why am I not surprised that it was you who thought of it? What else did you want me to do in 5 more minutes? The place would have been called with cops. Tonight, once it's dark, I'll go drop her off on the old London Road. You idiot! She knows what you look like. She'll get the cops back here. She's blind, Dad. I just have to tie you up to the bed so you don't take off. I'll give you enough slack so you can lie down. For the 1,000th time that night, Cheyenne felt the face of her watch making the tiniest of movements not to wake Griffin. The time had finally come. Bending down, she tugged and tugged on the rope until it was loose enough to wiggle out of. She trailed her fingers down the wall and into the living room. And on a table, her fingers traced a big wrench. Taking one last ragged breath, she turned and tiptoed back towards him. Gripping the wrench in both hands, Cheyenne raised it high overhead, and like a man splitting a log, Cheyenne swung the wrench. She opened the front door, remembering the yard had been littered with junk. She took short steps, feeling with each foot before committing her weight. She crouched behind a large tree and tried to be as quiet as possible. Freeze! Police! Help me! Slow down there, little lady. What are you saying? My name is Cheyenne Wilder, and I was kidnapped from the mall 2 days ago. Wait a minute, they mentioned you on roll call this morning. Don't worry, you're safe. She took a seat in the front bench of the car and heard the officer get beside her. So are you taking me home now? Back to the station. We need to debrief you. There was something slightly off about his voice. In fact, everything was slightly off. Inside the confines of the car, she could smell something familiar about the cop. The sharp smell of peppermint overlaying the smell of tobacco Griffin's dad smelled like that. She swept her hand left over the seat between them, and her fingers closed over what they had found. It was a gun. You make one move, and I'll shoot. Get out of the car, I'll shoot you. She heard Roy open the door and scramble out. She leaned forward, grabbed the handle, yanked it close. A second later, found the lock right as Roy tinkled the handle. Let me in, Cheyenne, let me in, or you'll be sorry. A loud noise next to her ear made her jump. Another one. Roy was hammering on the window with a rock. Cheyenne took the gun and she placed it against the window where she thought he was. Stop doing that, or I will shoot you. Really? I don't think so. You'll miss me by a mile. Or maybe the bullet will ricochet and hit you. So go ahead. Another rock slammed down on the window. Then a new sound made her jump. It was a cell phone. She began to rake her fingers through the crumpled up papers that littered the floor. Finally, her fingers closed over the phone. Hello? 911, what is your emergency? My name is Cheyenne Wilder, and I was kidnapped. I'm in a car. I've locked the door, but he's still outside. Okay, Cheyenne, can you tell me where you are? I don't know. Okay, I can see which cell phone tower is relaying your message. That narrows it down, but not enough. Wait! I hear a siren. From which direction, Cheyenne? We've got 4 cars, but they're pretty spread out. South, I think, but I'm not sure. Can you ask them to turn their sirens on one at a time? Yes. And you tell me which one you can hear, okay, Cheyenne? Car 1. Nothing. Okay, let me see. Car 2. Nothing. Okay. Car 3. That's it. And it's coming closer than before. Then a hand punched through the window. Police, get on the ground. Cheyenne, it's okay. It's the police. You're safe now. It's gonna be okay. Let me feel your badge. The man who just tried to kill me told me he was the cop. She heard him fumble with the badge as he placed it into her hand. Her thumb rubbed over the raised letters. What took you so long?
PR55, I had your time as 7:39.
Thank you.
Other judges? All right, PR52, we are ready when you are ready.
Thank you. I was born on January 31st, 1979, a Wednesday. I know it was a Wednesday because the date is blue in my mind, and Wednesdays are always blue, like the number 9 or the sound of loud voices arguing. I like my birthday because I can visualize most of the numbers in it as smooth and round shapes similar to pebbles on a beach. 1, 31, 97, 19, 97 are all divisible only by themselves in 1. I can recognize every prime number up to 9,973 by their pebble-like quality. I don't know, it's just the way my mind works. I have a rare condition known as savant syndrome, which affects virtually every aspect of my life. I remember being 10 and standing under the shade of trees that dotted the perimeter of the school playground, watching as the other children ran and shouted and played from the sidelines. I did this every playtime without fail so that it soon became a running joke and was perceived as common knowledge that Daniel talks to the trees and that he is weird. I liked spending time among the playground's trees because as I walked, it felt as though I could make myself disappear by standing behind each tree. There was certainly no shortage of time in which I felt like I wanted to vanish. I just didn't seem to fit in, as though I had been born into the wrong world. The sense of never quite fitting in, of always being somehow apart and separate, weighed heavily on me, and I soon began to long for a friend. All of my classmates had at least one, and most had several. I'd spend hours at night staring at the ceiling, just wondering what it would be like to be friends with anyone. I was sure it'd make me less different. And perhaps then others wouldn't think I was so strange. Daniel Tammet was born with savant syndrome, a rare condition in which someone with significant mental disabilities displays abilities far above the average human. The condition allows him to use numbers in magnificent ways, but in turn isolates him from virtually all of his peers. Born on a Blue Day follows Daniel on his lifelong journey to find friendship, understanding, and acceptance. As I grew older, my parents began to worry that I spent too much time alone in my room and did not make an effort to spend time with the other children in the neighborhood. My mother was friendly with a woman who lived a few houses down and who had a daughter about my age, and one day they invited us over for tea and chit chat. Whenever I tried to talk to the girl about the things I cared about, like numbers or conquer, she'd just interrupt me. This made me very angry because I couldn't get the words in my head out, and it felt as though I was unable to breathe. Then my face got red, which only made her laugh, which made me get redder and redder until finally I got very upset. And I stood up and I hit her. And then she cried. Not surprisingly, I was not invited back. When I was 16, I had my first crush. A boy had just moved into town, and he was tall and kind and outgoing in spite of being at a new school. In many ways, he was the total opposite of me. Just to look at him made me feel strange. One day, I had the idea that if I helped him with his history coursework, it'd be a lot easier to interact with him. So I spent hours writing out page after page of the past month's history notes, and I handed them to him the next time I saw him in the library. He thanked me and accepted them. However, there was never a moment in which he spoke to me as a friend or made any effort to spend time with me. I soon became restless and wrote out my feelings in a short essay that I gave to him one break time in the library. Later, at the end of the school day, I saw him standing at the exit, just watching and waiting. I walked up to him and stood next to him, and for a brief, happy moment, it felt as though he had entered my world. He told me softly and gently that he couldn't be the man that I wanted him to be. I hung my head and walked away. At 26, I met Kim Peek. See, this was a particularly important moment for me because it was to be the first time I had ever met and spoken with another real-life savant. Standing close to his father, Kim was a heavy-set figure with moping graying hair and a piercing, inquisitive eye. He quickly pulled me close to him. "Give me your birth date." January 31st, 1979. You were born on a Sunday. I nodded and then asked him for his birthday. November 11th, 1951. I told him that he was born on a Sunday and his face lit up. I knew then that we had connected. We spent hours in the library talking to each other. With Kim, I could unburden myself of all my thoughts, and he would sit and listen patiently, never interrupting me or telling me how weird or strange I was. We talked about my love of ladybirds and coin towers, about books, about numbers and tall trees. As I left, I felt several thoughts. Kim and I had much in common, but I think most important was the sense of connection I think we both felt during our time together. Our lives had, in many ways, been very different, and yet we shared this special, rarefied bond. I had been moved with the enthusiasm with which he and his father had welcomed me and with which they had openly and candidly shared their story. Kim's special gift is not only his brain, but also his heart, humanity, and his ability to touch the lives of others in a truly unique way. Meeting Kim Peek was one of the happiest moments of my life.
Great job. I had 704.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a little bit longer at 7:08, but
Why don't we meet in the middle then? Can we say 706?
sure.
52, accept 706? All right. I like that negotiation. We can make negotiations. That works. Okay, judges, are we ready? PR 51, when you're ready to go, we're ready for you.
Okay. Thank you. She was a large woman with a large purse that had everything in it but a hammer and nails. It was about 11 o'clock at night, and she was walking alone when a boy ran up behind her and tried to snatch her purse. The strap broke with the single tug the boy gave it from behind, but the weight of the purse was so great that instead of taking off full blast as he had hoped, the boy fell on his back on the sidewalk, and his legs flew up. The large woman simply turned around and kicked him right square in the blue jean sitter. We are all guilty of it, judging someone as soon as we meet them, basing our impression off of a single interaction. Langston Hughes tells a different story of acceptance and second chances, proving that not everyone lives up to their first impression, and many people have a meaning behind their actions, even if it is indiscernible to us. Thank You, Ma'am by Langston Hughes teaches listeners that empathy is always in order. After that, she said, "Pick up my pocketbook, boy, and give it here. Now, ain't you ashamed of yourself?" Firmly gripped by his shirt front, the boy replied, "Yes'm." "What did you want to do it for?" I didn't aim to." "You a lie." By this time, 2 or 3 people had passed, stopped, turned to look, and some stood watching. "If I turn you loose, will you run?" asked the woman. "Yes'm," said the boy. "Well, then I will not turn you loose." She did not release him. I'm very sorry, lady. I'm sorry." And your face is dirty. I got a great mind to wash your face for you. Ain't you got nobody home to tell you to wash your face?" "No, ma'am." "Then it will get washed this evening," said the woman, starting up the street, dragging the frightened boy behind her. He looked to be about 14 or 15, frail and willow wild in tennis shoes and blue jeans. "You ought to be my son. I would teach you right from wrong. Least I can do right now is to wash your face. Are you hungry?" "No, ma'am. I just want you to turn me loose." "Was I bothering you when I turned that corner?" "No, ma'am." "But you put yourself in contact with me. And if you think that contact ain't gonna last you a while, you've got another though coming. When I get through with you, sir, you are going to remember Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones." The boy began to struggle. Mrs. Jones simply jerked him around in front of her, threw a half Nelson about his neck, and continued to drag him up the street.
When she reached her door, she opened it, dragged him inside, down a long hall, and into a large kitchenette-furnished room at the rear of the house. She switched on the light and left the door open. The boy, he could hear other roomers laughing and talking in the large house. The woman, she still had the boy by the neck in the middle of her living room. "What is your name, boy?"
Roger.
"Well then, Roger, you go to that there sink and you wash your face," she said, whereupon she released him at last. The boy looked at the door, looked at the woman, looked at the door, and went to the sink. "Let the water run until it gets warm. Here's a clean towel." Bending over the sink, the boy asked, Are you going to take me to jail?" "With that face, I'm not going to take you nowhere. Here I am, trying to get home, to cook me a bite to eat, and you come and snatch my pocketbook. Maybe you ain't been to your supper neither, late as it be. Have you?" There's nobody home at my house," said the boy. "Well then, we'll eat tonight. You must be hungry, or been awful hungry, to try and snatch my pocketbook." "No, ma'am, I just wanted a pair of blue suede shoes." "Blue suede shoes? Well, you didn't have to snatch my pocketbook to get a pair of blue suede shoes. You could have asked me." The water dripping from his face, the boy stood up. After he had dried his face and, not knowing what to do, had dried it again, he turned around. The door was still open. He could make a dash for it down the hall. He could run. After a while, the woman said, "You know, son, I were young once, and I wanted things I could not get." There was a long pause. The boy's mouth opened, and then he frowned. The woman said, You thought I was going to say but, didn't you? You thought that I was going to say, oh, but I didn't snatch people's pocketbooks. Well, I wasn't going to say that. I have done things, son, that I would not tell you, nor tell God if he didn't already know. But you set yourself down, and while I go make dinner, you might run a comb through your hair to look presentable. In another corner of the room, there was a hot plate and icebox. Mrs. Jones went over and heated some lima beans and ham. She made some cocoa and cut him a per 10-cent cake. "Eat some more, son," she said. When they were finished eating, the woman got up and said, "Here, Roger, take this $10 and go buy yourself a pair of blue suede shoes. And next time, don't make the mistake of latching onto my pocketbook, nor no one else's, because shoes come by devilish like that will burn your feet. I wish you would behave yourself, boy, from here on in." She led him back down the hall and opened the door. "Good night. Behave yourself, boy." Roger wished that he could have said more than "thank you" to Mrs. Luella Bates Washington Jones as she stood in the doorway, but he couldn't as he turned on the barren stoop and saw her there. He was barely able to say, "Thank you, ma'am," to the woman before she shut the door, and he never saw her again.
PR 51, I had 719.
Same.
719, all right. All right, well, can we just give one more round? One more round here? Or like this, right? Either way. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Nice judging with you two. Have a good one.
You as well. Have a good one.